Hello and welcome to the next episode of The Conscious Female Founder. I'm your host, Sally Tarbox. I'm the proud owner of this podcast and YouTube channel. I am also a mindset coach and the owner of a company called The Empowerment Movement, where I coach other women and female entrepreneurs on mindset and how to increase their income streams within their business. I've also had the absolute privilege of being featured on Fox TV in the States on a program called Women of Influence, and I'm also an international best-selling author. But today I'm super excited because I'm sat down with Emma Sousa, who is an online nutritionist and PT, and she's helping other women across the country, across the globe, in regards to fitness, their health, their nutrition, training. So I'm super excited to be sat down with you today. So thank you so much for joining me. Emma, take an opportunity to introduce yourself and I guess give us a bit of an understanding of who you are, what you do, and how you help people.
Hi, Sally. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here too. So my name is Emma, as Sally just said, and I'm an online women's health coach. So I coach nutrition, strength training primarily, and also mindset, because it's really important that we balance all three together to make sure that people can achieve the goals, whatever that may be. But I do it without crazy dieting, because I think, especially as I focus on women primarily over 40, because I'm a woman over 40, well over 40.
You don't look it, by the way. You look amazing.
Thank you so much. Compliment accepted. Yeah, so it's really super important because we often get into this sort of diet culture and, you know, mindset is the key thing that's going to get you to where you want to be and to help you achieve your goals. So that's primarily what I do. I work with women all over the world. I work with regular lifestyle clients and also with athletes, you know, changing their diets. I'm plant-based myself. So I work with a lot of people that want to transition to a more plant-based diet or want to fully transition over to vegan. So
yeah, that's amazing. I love that you're helping other people in that way and in a really healthy way as well. But because I think that was what, when we first met, one of the big things that like struck me about you is like you were into the mindset stuff as well, and I was like, this is amazing, because then it becomes all encompassing. We have to work on the mindset. It's so important to then be able to achieve other results in other areas of our life, and like for you is the health and the fitness side of things. So I think that completely struck me, and I know we've had conversations about it, and I'm like, yes, we're on the same page here. This is great.
Well, the first time I heard you speak was at like a networking thing, and you were talking all about mindset, and that's, I think, when we kind of bonded.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah,
although we have different businesses, they're very similar in the sense that it all comes from the way you think, rather than the actions that you take always.
Absolutely. I say to people all the time, like, especially people that kind of, I guess, maybe get stuck in like a victim mentality, that when we start changing what's up here, then the outside will change considerably. But we have to start with the way we think and why we think that way, and then our outer reality will change. And that's probably the same as what you kind of see with your clients as well, maybe to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's easy for us, you know, in terms of what I do, it's easy for me to say, look, do this in terms of training, eat this in terms of diet. You can do it for a short while, but long term, that is the thing that is really so difficult. And unless you address the mindset and change your mindset, you're never, ever going to achieve it long term. That's the key thing.
Yeah, that is so true. Yeah, because it's like one of those things, isn't it, when people set New Year's resolutions and stuff like that at the beginning of the year, and they're like, oh, you know, I'm going to lose this amount of weight, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. And it kind of, I think there's a stat or something that it says like by the 15th of January, most people have given up. It's something like that. And it's like, yeah, I can completely see why.
Or never started at all.
But they never start in the first place. Exactly that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, I think sometimes it's just good to, it's like the tortoise and the hare sort of scenario, isn't it? Yes. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race, and it's not all about, the trouble is today we're in this I want everything now mindset. It's like, I want to be thin now, I want to be fit now, I want to, you know, be rich now, you know, whatever it is, you want it now. But actually it's that slow habit building formula that works.
Yeah. One of the very first books I read, like way back, like when I started kind of, I guess, working on my mindset, this was about 8 years ago, was a book called The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, and it's a brilliant book, and it literally goes down that, and it's almost like it breaks it down so simply, because it kind of talks about it in the fact that you can either go one way or you can go the other way, and it is that compounded effect of making like small change every single day, which at the time you don't think is huge, but actually over a long period of time it has such a huge effect on your life, your well-being, the way you think, and whether that be fitness, finance, like business, whatever. But it was probably one of the best like beginner books that I ever read, because I was like, this is so true, and yet we kind of know this, right? This kind of this thing of like this quick fix, that, you know, that quick buck, or you'll go to the gym for 6 weeks and everything will be, but actually in the long term that's not going to give us what we want at all. So it is very much about this kind of slow and steady.
100%, 100%. You know, it's so important, you know,
Yes.
can't reiterate it too
Enough.
much. It's the most important thing that you'll ever do.
Yeah. Now, obviously, you haven't always been in this world, and this is one of the big things that I actually loved about your story, because you were like now not florist. You owned your own flower farm, didn't you?
Okay, so let me go way back. So when I was young, I was into art. That's all I wanted to do was draw and paint. I went to art college. I did a printed textile degree. I sold some work. I came out of uni and I got into fashion. I became a buyer. I became a buyer's admin, worked my way up, was a buyer, worked for River Island, Arcadia, and all those sort of places. And then I started to get a bit disillusioned with the whole fashion industry, because it was really tough. You know, all the good old days of high margins had all disappeared, and we were squeezing the factories, and it wasn't a nice place to be. So I had my first child, actually. I went back to work part-time, but it was never part-time. It was really hard to manage everything. You know, they used to put me on a meeting. I wasn't supposed to work Fridays. They used to put me in a meeting at 7 o'clock on a Thursday night. So I'd ultimately be baby in arms going in on a Friday morning. It didn't work. And I got pregnant with my second child, and I thought, I can't do this anymore. I didn't even, you know, wait for the maternity leave. I just left. And I walked into a florist shop, got myself a little job as a florist, trained like on the shop floor, and kind of built a business up from there. So with 2 tiny children, another one on the way, got 3 kids. And I kind of built it up from there, and I started doing, you know, things for friends. Then I did a few weddings and stuff. And I did it for quite a few years. And then one day I also read this book. It's called The 50-Mile Bouquet. And it was basically based in America. And it was about all these women, mostly, that had just built a flower farming business from nothing. I mean, there were women growing flowers in a disused car park in California, and all these amazing things. I thought, my gosh, if they can do that, I can do so much more. You know, I'd always been into sustainability and stuff like that. And that's where it all came from. I wanted to be sustainable, be local, etc., etc. So that's how I got into flower farming. So I got a bit of land, looked for a while, got a bit of land, and I did it alongside the business, which I kind of niched into weddings and events. And I did the flower farming business. And actually, looking back on it, I don't know how I did it, because it was just crazy. Literally, like, the floristry was full-time enough. Growing was crazy, like early mornings, watering, cutting, late nights, madness. But yeah, that's what I did. I was a farmer florist, I guess you'd call me.
I love this story so much, because there's a couple of things you said there. The fact that you too read one book and it kind of completely changed the way you thought. And I think that's why I love doing these things and these sorts of interviews, is because for me, it only takes one thing for someone to see or watch or read, and it just makes them think completely differently. And that's why I'm so passionate about this podcast and speaking to other women like you who have set up incredible businesses, because it takes one thing, and you don't ever know whether you've touched someone or not, but actually the impact, the effect it has is huge. And I think that's so incredible. The other thing that I love what you said was the fact that you obviously read it and you sat there and thought, well, if they can do it, then so can I.
Yeah.
And that in itself is like, yes, this is what I want more of. This is what I want more people to believe and see in themselves.
I'm a great believer that you can do anything you put your mind to.
Yes, you can.
And my thing is, if I say something out loud to someone, I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I sometimes I'm very quiet and I've got things in my head and I don't say anything, and then I'll say it out loud one day, and then I know that I'm going to do it.
Yeah,
because I said it.
Yeah,
so that's my thing.
Obviously, when you were doing the flower farming, like you said, like now on reflection, you sit there and you go, I don't actually know how I did all of that. But I think you were probably so focused on your goals and what you were doing and passionate about what you were doing. It all happens, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not downplaying it. It probably was incredibly tough, especially with three young kids. And I imagine, yeah, crazy early mornings. And I guess in the flower world as well, like the actual business model and how you look at it, like obviously flowers die, right? So kind of that sort of turnover as well, and looking at those things, it must have been incredibly pressured and stressful, but you're obviously completely passionate about it, and that's what drove you on.
I thrived on it. I loved it. I mean, don't get me wrong, in the moment it can be super stressful. I mean, like you said, there's crazy deadlines. So if you've got a wedding, it's not that you can plan it all in advance, but you physically have got 3 days to do a huge event. And you know, with the growing as well, you've still got to look after those flowers, and you've got to be cutting them every day, and you've got to, you know, it's all crazy, but you do it. You kind of thrive on that stressful life. And you know, I always said, even if I retired tomorrow, I would always be super busy, because I just love the, I don't know, the buzz and I love the little bit of stress, you know, that goes with it.
Yeah.
It gives me life, I guess.
I guess it's also like the learning that comes into it as well, right? Because through that, you must have learned incredible amounts about who you are to a degree, right? And about that side of the business. So it's almost like, and I can see how you're really into the mindset stuff, because it's almost like if you're thriving off this kind of this like this understanding of like, I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly growing, like I'm constantly going in a direction, then absolutely the mindset piece completely fits in. I think it's because it's different when you kind of see people and they're like, oh, you know, I feel so stuck, but they're not actually doing anything for themselves. It's very easy to get stuck in a sense of victim mentality.
Absolutely.
Whereas obviously you're completely different, and you're like, yeah, you just kept going, and I love that. It's an absolute inspiration. Now, obviously, you're not still doing this. This is another reason why I love your story so much, because I know when we met, you were like, I think I did life backwards, and I'm like, not at all. You just did life on your own terms, and you are. And I love that, because obviously you got to a point where you kind of didn't want to do the flower business anymore. I know you kind of still quietly do a little bits on the side, but and then how on earth did you get into world of PTing and coaching, and like this is incredible, this book.
It's all a little bit different. So
yeah,
I guess it kind of evolved through my own personal journey. So when I hit 40, I'm in my 50s now. When I hit 40, my body started to change, and I didn't like the things that I was seeing. I started to thicken up, and I just didn't like what I was looking like, and I didn't like what I was feeling, more importantly. So, you know, I started to get body aches. I just didn't feel good in myself. And I knew that something was not quite right. I went to the doctors, which I never go to the doctors. They said everything was fine. I knew myself that something wasn't right. So I just went on a journey to find out for myself what I could do to fix the way I was feeling, because I wasn't feeling great. And I did that through nutrition. I've always loved learning about new things anyway. And I've always thought I ate really healthy. I was a vegetarian since I was 14. I thought I was healthy. But actually, looking back, I was okay. I ate okay, but I didn't eat brilliantly. And I decided, I think I did like a little online fitness thing, actually. And there were so many restrictions on this fitness thing. And they made you give up bread and pasta, which were my key social foods. And I did it for, I don't know what it was, 8 weeks or whatever. And I thought, if I can do that, I can do anything when it comes to food. And I'd always wanted to go properly vegan, because I love animals. I love the planet, blah, blah, blah. I thought, well, I can do this. And I went vegan, but I wanted to do it in a way that was healthy, not be a junk food vegan. So I just started studying food on my own, you know, science-backed studies and stuff like that. And the way I felt and the transformation in my energy levels, the way my body felt, the way my body started to look was transformational. And I'm not saying it's because I'm a vegan. I'm saying because I was eating whole plant foods.
Yeah.
And whatever your diet, it's really key that you eat mostly whole foods rather than junk food, which is
of course, right? Yeah.
And it was so transformational that I started to get into my fitness and blah, blah, blah. And then I thought, God, I love this. I loved it so much that I thought, I can't do the floristry forever. My parents were elderly. They weren't in a good space. They were taking up more and more of my time. And I just couldn't physically juggle everything. Something had to give. And it was probably going to be me.
Yeah, 100%.
So I pulled back on the business a bit. The plan was to slow it down very slowly. And I started to study officially nutrition. And then I got my personal training qualification. And it all sort of went from there. And that's what I started to do. I've been doing it for coming up for 3 years. So I'm still a new baby doing it.
Yeah.
But I've been doing the studying a lot longer, but now I'm fully qualified. And, you know, I launched my business 2.5 years ago and it's been great, mostly online. And yeah, that's
I absolutely love this. I love this because you've done something amazing. You've invested in yourself, first of all.
Yeah.
Like, first and foremost, as opposed to kind of getting bitter and frustrated, oh, you know, I don't look good, I don't feel great, I don't blah, 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 blah. You've done the best thing, and that was invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge and invest in yourself and be like, okay, if anyone's going to change anything here, it needs to be me. I need to start with me. And then it's evolved. So it's like, I love this story so much because I'm like, and I love the fact that there wasn't, for you, it was like, something's going to give, it's going to be me. There wasn't this kind of, how am I trying to put it? Almost like, you know, when people get to a certain age, you're like, oh, well, I can't change now. There's no point. And whereas you've gone, no, you know what? This is on me. I'm going to crack on. And now you're teaching exactly the path that you've been down. And that's what's really powerful in itself. So now you really will be able to help women at a much deeper level because you've gone through it all as well.
Yeah. And a lot of the women I work with are struggling. I mean, you know, not only do we have like often still have fairly young families, but we have elderly parents, have high pressure jobs or multiple jobs. We navigate perimenopause and menopause, which a lot of women are just like on their knees with. And I do honestly believe that you can address a lot of the things that are going on in your life, the negative things, through just your mindset. Sorry to be a bore, but your lifestyle, the things you choose to eat, the things you choose to do, the movement you choose to make is also crucial. And I know it's really boring because people are like banging on about it so much at the moment, but it's true. It's transformational and it's life-changing.
Yeah.
And I always say to everyone, don't think about the now, think about down the road, you know, 10, 20 years.
Yes.
I'm 53 now. In 20 years' time, in 30 years' time, I want to still be here. I want to still be active. I want to be still doing things and, you know, living my dreams.
Yeah.
But many people can't because they physically haven't got the capabilities to do it because they're just in ill health and etc. You know, you've got to think about the future. It's so important.
It's really interesting you say that. I was watching the other day an interview by with Jeff Bezos. You know, and he was talking this story about when he kind of made the jump to go into Amazon and start Amazon, because obviously it started originally as a bookstore. And it was a really interesting interview because he actually came from banking and finance. Like, he worked on Wall Street in New York, and he was saying that, like, actually he had a brilliant paid job, but he had this desire and this passion to kind of start in back then when it was like the internet. And he was saying the way he made the decision in the end was to not let the immediate things in his life change the decisions he wanted to make for when he was 80. And he was like, all I had to do, because he was like, I was married, I had kids, you know, I was coming from a really well-paid job on Wall Street to completely put all bets on myself. And he said, and the way I had to look at it was to transform myself into an 80 or 90-year-old and sit there and be like, what do I actually want to have achieved? Like, what will actually be important to me then? And he was like, then it makes making decisions and putting bets on yourself much easier, because then you're not focusing on the here and the now and the smaller decisions you have to make on a daily or weekly basis. And I think that is so true in regards to what you're doing and exactly what you're saying. It's like, actually what you want to do is like look at yourself when you're 80 or you're 90 and be like, how do I want to feel then? What do I want to have achieved then? So what actually needs to change now so that I can achieve those things? Because it's so easy, especially in the fitness world and nutrition and stuff like that, to sit there and be like, oh, I'll go to the gym next week. Oh, I'll start next week. Oh, you know, and then another month goes past, and then another year goes past, and nothing in yourself has changed, right? You still feel like crap. You still have no energy. You still hate the way you look. And it's like, actually, that those decisions that you're making in the immediate are going to have a massive effect later down the line.
And sometimes the decisions you make now are hard decisions, because especially with the sort of stuff that we both do, and with the people we work with, there is like a financial commitment there, and it is hard. I mean, I've been there. I still do it sometimes. Gosh, can't afford it, can't afford the time, can't afford the finance. But actually, once you do it, you can afford the time, you can afford the money, because you make time. You find the money, because it's important. And down the line, I always say to potential clients or clients, think about 6 months, 12 months down the road. In 6 months' time, do you want to still be sitting where you are now, or maybe in a worse position? Or do you want to make 6 months of progress? And in that 6 months, yes, you might have to tighten your belt a little bit. You might have to get up a little bit earlier to make sure you get to the gym, or whatever it is that you've got to do, or food prep, or whatever. But that small time frame of sacrifice gives you big, big rewards. And this is what it's all about. You've got to invest now for the future.
Absolutely. I love that. It's exactly what I teach and exactly what I preach. Let's invest in you. And I think once people then get on board of making the decision that actually they are the priority in their life, and they come to an understanding that there's a ripple effect, right? Like you said, like when you were talking about your flower business, you knew that something was going to break, and ultimately it was going to be you, right? And if that had happened, that would have had a much bigger ripple effect. Would have had a ripple effect on your family, on your parents, on your business, on your head, like everything. And it's getting people to understand that when you actually sit there and go, do you know what? The priority here is me. I am the priority. How I feel and what I want in 20 or 30 or 40 years time is the priority. So I need to make that investment. And like you said, exactly, you can either be sat here in 6 months' time and be 6 months into progress, into change, into transformation, in whatever that looks like in your life, or you can probably be in a bit of a worse position. So and I completely agree with you in regards to like the time and the money thing, because I have conversations like this with clients and they're like, I don't have the time. And I'm like, we actually do, when it becomes important to us. When it becomes a priority.
But I think as women, especially, we are really hard on ourselves.
We're
and we
so hard,
other people, our children, our partners, our, you know, whatever it is. And we always put ourselves last, you know, always. And especially when it comes to like our time and our finances, you know, we're always last on the list. But actually, the older I've got, the more I've realized it's so important. You know, the women I work with are majorly stressed out. I mean, most of them have got mega stress on their shoulders. And it's because they're trying to do it all. And sometimes you need to take a little step back and say, actually, I'm not being selfish by spending this hour doing whatever it is that you need to do or you want to do. It's not selfish. It's actually really unselfish, because you're a much better person for doing this. Is what people don't understand. You are a much better person for everyone else, for your kids, for your partners, for your parents, whoever it is, your friends. You're much more available when you're less stressed and you've taken the time to invest in yourself.
I absolutely agree with you. I wholeheartedly agree. It's the ripple effect again. And it can either go into a really negative way, or it can actually have a really positive impact. But it's and I agree with you. Like, I've got a young daughter, I'm running businesses, and it's that feeling of like, I can do it all, I can do it all, I can keep going, I can keep, and then before you know it, you're crippling and you're like, oh my God, everything's going wrong. But it's about being a little bit selfish sometimes and being like, actually, do you know what? I am the most important person here. So I need to say no to people, or I need to cut back on things, or I need to really clearly set my boundaries to be able to protect myself.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree with you.
100%.
Obviously when you made this change from, because this is one thing I see quite a lot with women, like who start businesses and stuff like that, is when they make that jump. Obviously you kind of made the bigger, I guess, a big jump when you kind of went from flower farmer to online coach and fitness trainer. Did you ever, because it's something that I come across, is women sometimes lack a bit of self-confidence or self-worth, or they kind of get a bit of imposter syndrome. Obviously you were coming from flower farming, which you've done for years, so you knew very well, and you were learning something completely new. Did you ever come up against that as you were making a brand new business?
Yes and no. I mean, no, in the sense that because I was doing the background work anyway with the fitness and stuff, and it was kind of it crept up on me, I guess, and I kind of, balanced the two. But I did, wind the other business down much sooner than I planned, just because of family circumstances and stuff like that. And when I think about it, I felt a little bit sad about the business that I'd left behind, because it was such a great business, and not blowing my own trumpet, but I was really good at it.
I love that. Blow your own trumpet, woman. Yes.
So yes, in that respect, it was a little bit sad, but no, I mean, just move on. And, I love what I'm doing now, and I feel the same passion and enthusiasm for what I'm doing. So I kind of don't think about it too much. And we all get imposter syndrome sometimes.
Oh God, don't we? Yeah.
Even with the flower business, I still got it years after running an amazing, successful business, and I knew my stuff. But, we all start somewhere, and, I've been through that process of being good at what I was doing, but then growing and getting better and better and better and more knowledgeable. And it's the same thing. You never stop learning. I mean, you can be the most experienced person on the planet, but you never stop learning. And it's when you think you know it all, that's when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because there's always new things to learn, especially with what I'm doing. There's always new science coming up, and, I've changed my opinions already. The way I coach has changed. I'm much more, I embrace people's, I'm much more relaxed about things now, because I was very strict with myself when it comes to my fitness. And I expected everyone else to be the same, but I know people are not like that. So I'm much more like, okay, let's make this work for you. Not everyone is the same, and we just work around how you want to work it,
That's amazing. So yeah, it's not cookie cutter approach, right?
Absolutely not.
It's about seeing those women and understanding them on a real deep level to what actually fits for them, what works for them, what works their lifestyle, what works their fat, like whatever it might be, like it, and I love that. So it's not this kind of one size fits all. But I think that you get that a lot because of like the mindset stuff that we do as well, because it's not one size fits all at all with people. You have to really understand them, understand their backstory, what their struggles, what they're coming up against, what their blocks, to then be able to make really incredible change with them. And that's exactly what you're doing. You are amazing. You're absolutely amazing.
Sorry, I'm moving my computer close to me because I can see the sun coming through.
That's all right. It's nice to have the sun.
So it's coming a bit closer. Yeah. Oh, thank you. That's so nice. But I mean, I just think I'm always one of these people that if I don't flip between things very often, but when I get something in my mind that I want to do, I do it. And I always love to set myself a challenge. And I'm quite an introvert, and I find like a lot of situations quite uncomfortable. And I've always put myself in uncomfortable situations because I think it helps me grow.
Yes.
I mean, this would be just my ultimate nightmare, to sit on Zoom and talk to someone, or, hold my own Zooms and podcasts and what have you. It's like out of my comfort zone. Even going to a networking meeting and chatting to random people, out of my comfort zone. But the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yes.
And, I think it's really good for our personal growth and, and our confidence.
Absolutely. Yes. Oh,
Yeah,
this is all music to my ears. It's so true though, right? And I think when I started this, like way back when I started doing like Facebook Lives and stuff like that, I was like, I remember having a coach at the time and she was like, you need to start. And I'm like, every part of me wanted to crawl back into my own body because I was
yeah,
like, that's not me though. But I did it. In the end, I just did it. And it was awful at the time. But I remember thinking, yeah, but I've done it. I've done
yeah.
it.
It's
And
an
I
achievement, right?
yeah, and then the next time you do it, you're like, oh my god, I've done it again. Oh my god, I've done it again. And that's where then again in our conscious mind and our subconscious mind, we start to reprogram and we start to rewind. We start to pull up like the positive things, and then that has a real effect, a good effect, in the sense of like then our brain starts being able to pick these pieces of evidence up to be like, oh yeah, I did that last time. As opposed to going the other way and being like, oh, well, you chickened out last time, so you're not going to do it this time. Oh, you were very good last time, so you're not going to. And it's so true, isn't it? You have to sometimes put yourself in those uncomfortable situations. And the way I look at it is, do you know what? I'm only going to be here once. So let's give it a try. And if it's
actually, who cares the most? You do. No one else actually cares that much.
they don't care anyway. I think so many people get caught in this concept of like everybody's looking at us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
When actually everybody's just looking at themselves.
Exactly.
So it's a real interesting way where people are like, oh, but I can't do that because, you know, people might be watching, or what will people think? And it's like, they're probably thinking more about themselves right now.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And also, if anyone does think anything, well, so what? You know, every one person that thinks something negatively, there'll be like half a dozen that think positively. So, you know.
Yeah. I absolutely love that. Yes, to put yourself in uncomfortable positions. I'm here for that. I do exactly the same thing. Hey, have the uncomfortable conversations, put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and just see actually you'll probably get growth from it. And you'll start getting feedback and data from it. That's what I say to people a lot. Like, you'll get the data back from it as to actually, do you know what? I did just do that. I did just achieve that. And that's really positive.
But that's what it's all about. That's how we learn, is by gathering the data. You know, what worked, what didn't work. And a failure is not a failure, because a failure
it's not. It's a learning.
To learn from. It's actually probably a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, we can't all do everything right all the time. And, you know, things that don't work, well, you move on and you learn from them. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, so as obviously PT, online nutrition coach, what are the, and mindset coach, what are the kind of things that you do if you ever have a day where you're feeling a bit or a bit, I don't know, low on energy or low in your mood? What are some top tips that you can give our listeners to kind of get yourself back in a better place? What are the things that you maybe do on a daily basis, or if you're having a particularly rough day?
Oh, well, nice question. So I guess for me personally, I am a doer, and even if I'm not feeling it on that particular day, so say for example, I've got to go to the gym and train that morning, I'm not feeling it, my own training, and I'd much rather have a lie in bed and, you know, whatever, around and, you know, do whatever. You just got to get up and go, and it doesn't matter if it's not a perfect workout. It's the fact that you've got up, you've gone, you've tried your best. It may not have been the best workout, but you've done it.
Yeah.
And you almost always feel instantly better.
Yeah.
And it gives you energy. So it kind of lifts you out of that sort of funk that you're in. You know, it's about pushing yourself enough just not to get into that downward spiral of, oh no, oh, woe is me. Oh, I feel so crap today, blah, blah, blah. It's just always positive. I think that's what it is. It's always a glass half full, never a glass half empty with me.
Yes.
And it's really important because I've been surrounded by some people that have been very, very negative. And it's just like a downward spiral.
Yeah.
You've got to look at the positives in your life. And every day I get up and I'm grateful. Yeah. My amazing kids, for my, you know, my home, for everything I have. And I, you know, I don't have like tons of stuff that is amazing that you look at and think, wow. But I'm grateful for what I have, because I have a good life and, you know, I'm healthy. I've got a great family, and that's what it's always about being positive and just pushing yourself.
I think that's incredibly powerful what you said, because what we generally find with people is that actually people want the feeling, they don't want the stuff. That makes sense. So the materials, it's like when you say to people, like, what do you want? They're like, I want a new car, I want a new house, I want a new handbag. And actually, it's not about that at all. When you really do the questioning and the work behind it, what you actually uncover underneath is actually people want a feeling. There's a feeling they want, whether that be a feeling of security, whether that be a feeling of feeling loved, happy, safe, like whatever it might be. And I think you have exactly just described that. Exactly, because you said, do you know what? I'm in a state of where I'm really grateful, I'm really happy, I look at what I've achieved, you know. So it's not about the stuff can kind of like teeter away almost, because I am so grateful and I've got a feeling almost that I'm happy and I'm in a really good place. I've got healthy kids, I've got a healthy family, like, and I've created this amazing business as well. And I think that is absolutely beautiful. I really, really do.
Yeah. And, you know, there's some memes going around that, you know, when it's your time to go, you can be as rich and you can own a fancy car and great clothes and handbags and whatever, but you can't take them with you. It's your life that you're living. That's the most important thing. It's the people that you surround yourself with, you know, and it's, for me, it's all about learning new things and, you know, going on new adventures. That's what I, you know, that's what I love to do. You know, it's not about driving a fancy car and stuff like that. I'm not interested in that at all. It is nice to drive a fancy car, but
Of course, right?
But, you know, it's not the most important thing to me. You know, it's about being grateful for being here and being healthy and being surrounded by, you know, great people.
Yeah. And that's so true, isn't it? You can drive the fancy car, you can get the quick fix, like we said earlier, you can get the quick, like, but actually, when you get out the fancy car, your life is still going to be in exactly the same position it was when you got in.
Yeah.
So actually, when we start working on ourselves, actually that's where the big results come, because then you feel completely different, and your outer reality will completely change, whether that be in regards to your health or your money or whatever, or your business. It really, really has such a transformational effect, and that is what's so incredible. And that's why I love what you're doing so much, because you're not just a PT who's an online PT who's telling people to lift weights and do this and do that. Actually, you're giving them much, much bigger, because you're working on the mindset, you're working about what's going in their body as well. And I think that's so true. I say to people, you know, like, our health isn't just what we eat, it's what we read, it's what we do with our mind, it's who we surround ourselves with. So yes, it's kind of like you're doing that whole encompassing thing, and that's what's so incredible for me. And also the fact that you've got to a point in life where you're like, do you know what, I'm going to change, my business is going to change, you know, and you've taken the step, you've taken the jump, you've put all bets on yourself, and you're like, right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, what have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose. You've got everything to gain. I don't know how many more years I'll be working, probably quite a few. So, you know, I want to be happy and do something that is fulfilling for me. And, you know, I feel like I'm doing something. And it sounds really like, oh my gosh, who do you think you are? But actually, what we do is really important.
It is.
Because it's life-changing. It can be really life-changing, you know. I can't stress how life-changing it can be to change who you are, the way you think, the way you feel, you know, just all those things are so important. And, you know, it's totally transformational.
Yeah. You are an absolute inspiration, Emma. I love it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sitting with me and sharing your story and what you do and why it's so important to you. So thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And like I said, this is why I do this, because I want to inspire other people, but also be like, look at this woman. She's amazing. I guess if there's one, so my final question that I ask everybody, if you could take yourself back, all the way back to the beginning, so I guess for you, it would probably be new baby, still in a corporate job, kind of in that sort of phase. What would be the one piece of advice you'd give someone who maybe found themselves with their back up against the wall, stressed out, not enjoying their life, not liking what they look like? Like, what would be one piece of advice that you would give someone who probably was you in your former self?
Just don't wait to make the change, because, you know, in my life, there's been a lot of like, oh, am I brave enough? Am I brave enough? And it's taking a lot longer to make changes than, you know, you've got to be brave and just do it. And actually, the younger you are, the easier it is. The older you are, the harder it is, because you've got a lot more on the line. You know, you've got families to support and stuff like that. So I would just say, just go and do whatever it is that your heart's desire. And if it doesn't work out, you can always go back and do, you know, something else. You know, it's not like you know, one change is not going to be forever if you don't want it to be. So just do it.
Yes, you are my ultimate just do it girl. I love it.
Just do it.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me today. Thank you so much. I will put have you got some links that you can share for us, like website and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that I will put underneath in show notes and things like that. So if anybody does want to reach out to Emma in regards to fitness, nutrition, mindset, absolutely, she'll be able to reach out. And I'll put all her Instagram and Facebook bios in there as well. So thank you so much. You're an absolute inspiration, and I love what you're doing, and I will always be a big supporter of you. So thank you, darling. Take care. Bye.
Bye.